everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are having a great Wednesday so far. I haven't done a lot today. I did go to a virtual bridal shower for Miss Jepson, so that was fun. Okay, attendance question update. I am extremely disappointed in you guys. Moose Tracks is far superior to Cookie Dough, okay? I'm just... whatever, okay? Alright, so Cookie Dough defeated Moose Tracks. So Cookie Dough has made it into the final, and we will decide once and for all what the best ice cream flavor is between Cookie Dough and Cookies and Cream. Apparently you guys really like cookies. Thank you so much to everybody who got your quiz in yesterday. Judging by our A average on that, you guys did really great, and so I'm super happy with that. Good job. Well, let's jump into today's Civil War story, shall we? Today, we are going to be talking about something called the Emancipation Proclamation. It is quite the mouthful, and just to kind of break it down, emancipation means to free, and proclamation means announcement. So there's announcement that someone's gonna be freed, and I bet you can guess who that was gonna be. But before we get to that, we actually have to talk about the bloody battle that led to the Emancipation Proclamation. So today, we are going to start by going over the Battle of Antietam. This is the story of Antietam. So the Confederate Army, which was led by General Robert E. Lee, was attempting to invade the Union through Maryland after some impressive victories. So Maryland, if you guys remember, was a slave state, but they had stayed loyal to America, and so this was the first battle that was going to happen on Union soil. So the Union Army chased after Lee, and eventually the two sides engaged in a battle. This is the bloodiest day in American history. The amount of life loss was staggering. Off to the side, you can see some images of the bodies that were left in the aftermath of this battle. At a place called Bloody Lane, alone 5,000 men lost their lives there, and you can see that picture here. Now, this battle was vicious, super terrible, and eventually Lee's army left the field. So they left first, but McClellan, who was the Union general, in fact, he was the general over all of the Union forces, refused to pursue him. McClellan was totally convinced that Lee outnumbered him, even though McClellan was actually the one with the bigger army. And so once again, a Union general refused to take firm action and chase Lee down. And so once again, Lee escaped to fight another day. Alright, so with Antietam, it happened in Maryland on September 17th, 1862. The Union commander was General George McClellan, pictured in the upper corner, and the Confederate commander was General Robert E. Lee, pictured in the lower corner. Casualties: the Union lost 12,410 men, and the Confederates lost 10,316. Keep in mind, this was all on the same day, so you can see why this is the bloodiest day in American history. The winner was the Union, technically, because they didn't really have a win. It was more that Lee withdrew first. However, they did stop him from invading, but they didn't capitalize on that victory because they didn't pursue him and really defeat his army. But strategically, we can count that as a victory for the Union. So the significance: the Union forced Lee back to the south, so he was unable to invade the north. The next point: McClellan caused the war to continue because he refused to pursue Lee. At this point, Lincoln has had enough of timid, overcautious generals, and so McClellan was removed from command. And the most important point is because this was seen as a victory in the North, it put the North and the Union in a good enough mood that it gave Lincoln the ability to issue what was known as the Emancipation Proclamation. So, about the Emancipation Proclamation. Lincoln had been against slavery for quite a while, and yet it was kind of tricky to just free the slaves. There were still border states that were slave states in the Union, and so the government really didn't want to risk alienating them and having them go and join the Confederacy. But the Battle of Antietam kind of gave Lincoln a bit of momentum to be able to free some slaves, but, yes, there is a but, he actually only freed the slaves that were in states that were in rebellion against the Union. So basically, he only freed slaves in the Confederacy. So even though those states were totally going to ignore this, this was still a huge deal. This proclamation technically changed the lives of 3.5 million slaves that were located in the South. So Lincoln passed the proclamation for a few different reasons. He wanted to hurt the Southern economy. He kind of thought that by freeing the slaves, they would come and join the Union, and then they could join the Union Army, thus giving them more soldiers. He also thought that this would convince Britain and France to not side with the South despite their reliance on cotton, because those two countries had been anti-slavery for quite some time. Another thing that this did was that it gave the war more of a clear purpose, because we had talked about how the North didn't realize what they were actually fighting for, but now it kind of had a purpose about we are fighting this to free the slaves. And then finally, Lincoln did this to kind of mess with the South psychologically a little bit. He was saying they were gonna free the slaves and they were gonna arm the slaves, which would probably lead to the South's worst nightmare, a slave rebellion. But we're actually talking about the Emancipation Proclamation because we're gonna be answering a historical question today. Who really freed the slaves? Lincoln or the slaves themselves? We're going to be going over 3 different sources from the time period and then 1 secondary source to see if we can answer this question, and then you guys are going to be the ones to make the final call on who really freed the slaves. So let's jump into these documents.
Document A is going to be the Emancipation Proclamation itself, so this is from Lincoln, so I'll read this excerpt and you follow along. That on the first day of January A.D. 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free. And the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons, and will do no act or acts to repress such persons or any of them in any efforts they may make for their actual freedom.
Okay, so a few things to break down with this document. Lincoln is saying that he will only free the slaves in states that are in rebellion against the Union. And so obviously we kind of know that the Confederates were probably going to ignore this. However, Lincoln is saying that the Union will recognize any efforts made by the slaves to gain their freedom, which is a big step up for the country from where they had been.
Document B, it's a letter from Hannah Johnson, the mother of a black Union soldier, to Abraham Lincoln. She writes, "When you are dead and in heaven, in thousands of years, that action of yours will make the angels sing your praises."
So from this document, we can see that some Black Americans were extremely grateful for the actions that Lincoln had taken.
Document C, excerpt from a lecture from historian Lewis Mazur. He said, "The slaves proclaimed the war won for abolition, long before government leaders did. They spread the word from plantation to plantation that Lincoln intended to set them free. Thousands responded to the news. What did they do? They ran away. They left plantations. They ran and searched for Union forces. They delivered themselves up, announcing that they were free."
So this historian is saying something pretty interesting. We kind of talked about how the Confederates were not going to be going and telling their slaves, hey, you're free. But the slaves still heard about this, and it was the slaves that spread the news in the South amongst themselves. And according to the historian, it was the slaves who were actually being the ones who were physically running away, and the slaves that were going to the Union soldiers saying, we're free.
All right, last document, document D. This is a painting, and its title is A Ride for Liberty, The Fugitive Slaves, from Eastman Johnson, 1862. So if you examine the painting, we see a family, and what we can see from the title, they're riding for liberty. So they're probably riding away from their enslaver and towards the north.
All right, so that does it for the documents. So as you answer this question, it's up to you guys what you kind of got from those sources, but who do you think actually did the most to free the slaves? Lincoln by issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, or the slaves by being the people who actually ran away? It is up to you. I will be back tomorrow with some more Civil War stories for you, and so I will see you then. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.